At 5:47 in the morning, Daniel sat upright in bed and stared at the running shoes beside his door. The promise had been made the night before. He would run before work. He had a goal, a playlist, a reason, and a fresh burst of motivation. Then the room felt cold. The bed felt warm. His phone glowed on the nightstand. One harmless thought arrived. I can begin tomorrow. That single sentence has buried more potential than failure ever did. Let me ask you something. How many promises have you broken because you did not care enough? And how many because the easier option was waiting one step away? Think about it. You are not defeated by a lack of dreams. You are defeated in small, private negotiations when comfort makes its case. Today, we are placing the stamp of discipline on your mental framework, not by telling you to become a machine, not by demanding that you feel motivated every morning. We are going to use 7 brain hacks that make discipline easier to choose, even when your feelings are not cooperating. Stay to the end because the 7th hack is the difference between forcing habits for a week and becoming someone who follows through for life. Your brain is not your enemy. It is an ancient survival machine operating in a world it was never designed to handle. For most of human history, effort cost energy, and energy was precious. Resting, seeking sweet food, avoiding uncertainty, and choosing immediate rewards were not signs of weakness. They were intelligent survival strategies. Now, that same brain faces a phone with endless novelty, food available in minutes, and comfort engineered into every corner of life. When it tells you to remain on the couch instead of training, or to scroll instead of studying, it is not making a moral judgment about your future. It is choosing the quickest relief it can see. Calling yourself lazy only adds shame to a system that needs understanding. The first shift is language. Stop saying, "I have no discipline." Say, "My brain is responding to the easiest reward in front of it." That sentence gives you power. It turns a character attack into a design question. What reward is my brain seeing? What discomfort is it trying to avoid? What can I change before the moment of temptation arrives? Nietzsche wrote that whoever has a why can bear almost any how. Your why matters, but it cannot carry you alone. It needs a system. It needs a path. You do not win by trying to overpower millions of years of programming with a motivational quote. You win by understanding the programming, then giving it a better route to follow. Every behavior has friction. Friction is the number of steps, decisions, obstacles, and moments of uncertainty standing between you and an action. Daniel's run required getting out of a warm bed, finding clothes, checking the weather, choosing a route, and leaving the house. Opening social media required touching a screen already in his hand. That was never a fair contest. If you want your brain to choose discipline, reduce the friction of the right behavior until it becomes simpler than the escape route. Put your book on the pillow. Open the study document before you sleep. Fill the water bottle. Prepare the training clothes. Keep healthy food at eye level. The fewer decisions required, the less opportunity doubt has to enter. Then add friction to what steals your attention. Log out of distracting apps. Put the charger outside the bedroom. Use a website blocker. Keep snacks out of immediate sight. Make the shortcut to comfort slightly inconvenient. You are not being dramatic. you are being strategic. The brain follows the path that asks the least from it in the present moment. Machiavelli wrote that one must be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. Be the fox with your own impulses. Recognize the trap before it closes, the phone by the bed, the vague to-do list, the television humming in the background. Then be the lion. Create a boundary that your weaker mood cannot easily cross. Most people try to carry discipline inside their head. They assume self-control is a moral muscle that must be flexed all day. But self-control is fragile. It weakens with stress, fatigue, hunger, and decision overload. Your environment can either protect that limited energy or drain it before noon. Imagine two desks. On one desk, an open notebook, a charged laptop, a glass of water, and a phone in another room. On the other, a television is playing, notifications are flashing, papers are buried, and the task is unclear. The first person does not need superior character to begin. Their environment is already voting for focus. Build rooms that quietly pull you toward your standards. Make your good cues visible. Let the guitar stand wait in the open. Put the journal beside your coffee mug. Set your shoes in the doorway. Keep the project materials arranged before you stop working. If you want to read, make the book the first thing your hand touches at night. Daniel changed his mornings when he stopped making the 547 version of himself solve every problem. The night before, he laid out his clothes, filled his water bottle, and placed the shoes directly in front of the door. The morning was still cold. The run was still demanding, but the decision had been made while his mind was clear. If this is making sense, subscribe to Mindset Stamps. We do not chase temporary hype here. We build systems that hold when moods disappear. The brain resists beginnings more than effort itself. Tell yourself to study for 3 hours and your mind sees a wall. Tell yourself to run 5 miles and it invents 10 reasons to wait. But tell yourself to read 1 paragraph, put on the shoes, or write 1 imperfect sentence, and the wall becomes a doorway. The 2-minute rule is not about pretending that 2 minutes will change your life. It is about becoming the person who starts. Make every new habit small enough to begin without an internal argument. 1 push-up, 1 page, 1 email, 2 minutes of focused work. Once movement begins, momentum can carry you farther, but the only requirement is the first move. Daniel used to postpone writing because he pictured a perfect proposal and feared he would fail it. One evening, he gave himself a smaller assignment: write the worst first paragraph possible. The pressure cracked. He wrote a bad paragraph, then another, then a usable page. He had not found motivation. He had reduced the emotional cost of beginning. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Notice your pattern. When a task feels huge, you escape. Make the task smaller before escape can speak. On difficult days, do the minimum version with pride. A tiny action is not a weak action when it protects the habit of returning. You already live inside reliable loops. You wake up, brush your teeth, make coffee, lock the door, sit down at your desk. These actions happen with little debate because repetition has carved a track through your day. Habit stacking lets you place a new behavior directly after an old, certain one. Use this formula. After I do this established action, I will do this small, disciplined action. After I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 2 minutes. After I make coffee, I will read 1 page. After I lock the front door, I will say my focus affirmation. After I sit at my desk, I will write 1 sentence before checking messages. Think of a blacksmith shaping a blade. 1 strike changes little. Hundreds of strikes in the same place transform raw metal into something strong. Your old habit is the anvil. Your new action is the strike. The identity you want is the blade taking shape. Do not scatter your effort across random times and vague intentions. Anchor it to a moment that already happens. This removes the question, when will I do it? The cue answers that question for you. It also removes a dangerous pause. Most good intentions die in pauses. They die between deciding and starting. When one action immediately follows another, the brain has less time to negotiate. Momentum is not loud. It is simply the quiet advantage of already being in motion. Procrastination is not a verdict on your worth. It is a message. It often means a task is hidden, vague, unpleasant, too large, or connected to no immediate reward. Instead of asking, "Why am I so lazy?" ask a better question. Which part of this habit is poorly designed? Use 4 gates. First, make it obvious. Keep the cue in sight: the open book, the packed gym bag, the clear and calm workspace. Second, make it attractive. Pair the task with a ritual you enjoy, a favorite drink, a specific playlist, a clear and calm workspace. Third, make it easy. Reduce the starting requirement until it is almost impossible to refuse. Fourth, make it satisfying. Mark the completion immediately on a calendar, tracker, or board. Consider a student who wants to study nightly. If the books are buried in a bag, the desk is cluttered, the phone is buzzing, and the plan is study for an hour, procrastination is predictable. Change the design. Open the material on the desk, make tea, set a 5-minute timer, and mark the completed session. The student is not suddenly a different human being. The system is simply now working with the brain instead of against it. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I design my discipline. You do not need to love every task. You need to make the first honest action visible, approachable, and rewarding enough to repeat. When the right behavior becomes the clearest option in the room, discipline stops feeling like a fight. The final hack is deeper than routine. Every completed action is evidence. Read 1 page, evidence that you are a reader. Train for 2 minutes, evidence that you are someone who trains. Close the app and begin your work, evidence that you protect your attention. These are votes for an identity. No single vote decides an election, and no single day makes you disciplined. The pattern decides. This is why perfection is a trap. One missed workout does not make you disabused. One distracted afternoon does not erase your standards. What matters is the vote you cast next. Return before the absence becomes a story about who you are. Highly consistent people do not always feel inspired. They are not permanently excited about the cold morning, the blank page, or the difficult chapter. What they have built is trust. They know they can keep a small promise even when the day is ugly. That trust is more valuable than motivation because it does not depend on a feeling. Stop saying, "I am trying to be disciplined." Begin saying, I am a person who follows through on small promises. Then make the statement true today, not with a grand declaration, with one visible action. Your identity shapes your behavior, and your behavior reinforces your identity. The loop can work against you or for you. From this moment, make it work for you. Tonight, choose one behavior, only one. Make its cue visible. Reduce its first step to 2 minutes. Attach it to something you already do. Remove one distraction. Create a tiny reward or mark when it is complete. Then repeat tomorrow. Do not rebuild your whole life in one emotional evening. Build proof. A man who walks for 2 minutes for 30 days has built more than the man who runs 10 miles once and disappears. The first man has evidence that he returns. That evidence becomes confidence, and confidence changes what he believes is possible. When you miss a day, do not turn it into an identity. Use the rule of return. Never miss twice if you can avoid it. Preserve the smallest version of the ritual. Open the book, put on the shoes, write one line. You are not chasing flawless performance. You are protecting the relationship you have with your own word. Daniel still has mornings when the bed feels warm and the day feels heavy. The difference is that the shoes are ready, the water is filled, the phone is away, and he has an identity vote waiting. He steps forward before he asks whether he feels like it. That is what discipline looks like in real life. Not punishment, not perfection, but preparation meeting action. Which stamp are you adding to your mindset today? Tell me in the comments. And if you are ready to build a mind that stays standing when motivation leaves, subscribe to Mindset Stamps. Your future is not asking you for a dramatic transformation. It is asking you for your next deliberate move. Comfort is persuasive because it never announces its price. It says, skip today, but does not mention the weaker promise you will carry into tomorrow. It says, you deserve a break, but quietly turns every difficult task into something you must fear. Rest is necessary. Escape is different. The skill is learning to tell them apart. Real rest leaves you clearer and stronger. Escape usually leaves you restless, guilty, and exactly where you started. The next time you hear the voice that asks you to delay, do not argue with it for 20 minutes. Answer it with a prepared line, I only have to begin. Then move your body before your mind builds a case. Stand up, touch the book, put both feet into the shoes. The body can interrupt a thought pattern faster than another thought often can. This is why physical preparation matters so much. It gives you an action to take when your inner voice becomes unreliable. You are not required to hate comfort. You are required to stop letting comfort make every important decision. The disciplined life has room for pleasure, sleep, laughter, and recovery, but it refuses to let temporary relief become the ruler of the day. That is a distinction mature people learn. The feeling you want now is not always the future you want most. Run a friction audit on one goal. If you want to study, count every obstacle between you and the first page. Is the material difficult to find? Is the desk cluttered? Is the phone visible? Is the first task unclear? Is the chair uncomfortable? Each obstacle looks small, but together they become a wall. Your brain does not calculate the wall in words. It feels the resistance and reaches for relief. Now remove one obstacle at a time. Put the material on the desk before dinner. Write the exact next question on a note. Charge the laptop. Place the phone in another room. Decide the first 5-minute task the night before. You are not trying to create a perfect laboratory. You are trying to stop wasting your courage on preventable decisions.
This matters outside work, too. Want to eat better? Prepare the first meal before hunger speaks. Want to save money? Make the transfer automatic before temptation arrives. Want to repair a relationship? Write the first honest message while your pride is quiet. Discipline is often less about heroic resistance than arranging the day so your values have a fair chance to win. Your environment is always teaching you. A room with a television on teaches partial attention. A desk piled with unfinished tasks teaches overwhelm. A phone that sleeps beside your pillow teaches your nervous system to wake into other people's demands. You may not notice the lesson because it is repeated silently, but repetition is powerful. Become the architect of what your eyes meet first. Create one place that means focus. It does not need to be expensive. It can be one cleared corner of a table, one lamp, one chair, and one rule. When you sit here, you begin before you consume. This small boundary tells your brain that locations have meaning. Over time, the chair itself becomes a cue. The same principle works with people. Spend time around those whose standards make action feel normal. You do not need to announce your ambitions to everyone, but you should make sure at least one person knows the person you are becoming. Accountability is not a prison. It is an environment made of relationships. When someone expects your best, it becomes harder to keep choosing the version of yourself that always postpones. The ego wants a dramatic beginning because dramatic beginnings feel like proof. The disciplined mind prefers a repeatable beginning because repeatable beginnings become proof. That is why small starts are so powerful. They protect you from the emotional crash that follows unrealistic plans. Picture two people learning an instrument. One practices for 4 painful hours on Sunday, burns out, and avoids the instrument for a month. The other practices for 5 minutes after dinner every evening. At first, the second person looks less committed. Months later, they have built familiarity, skill, and a relationship with practice that survives boredom. The boring system wins because it can be repeated. When you use the 2-minute rule, do not secretly demand that every 2 minutes become an hour. Some days it will, some days it will not. Both outcomes count. The rule is a contract with your future self. I will never make beginnings so frightening that I stop returning. Protect that contract. It is how you turn a fragile intention into a stable part of your day. A reliable cue removes dependence on memory. Memory is busy, emotional, and easily hijacked by urgency. A cue is simple. It is the moment after coffee, the moment the lunch plate is cleared, the moment the work computer opens. Choose cues that already occur with near certainty. Be precise. I will exercise sometime after work is a wish. After I place my bag on the floor at 6 p.m., I will change into training clothes is an instruction. Precision makes the action easier to visualize. Visualization makes the action easier to begin. Your brain cannot follow a foggy command. Do not stack too many changes onto one cue at first. A morning routine with 12 new habits becomes another impossible project. Start with one attachment.
Let it become boringly familiar. Then add the next layer only when the first no longer feels like a negotiation. Patience is not passive here. It is the strategy that allows habits to become strong enough to carry more weight. The modern brain is surrounded by immediate rewards. That is why distant benefits alone rarely compete. "This will help me in 6 months" is true, but the brain wants evidence tonight. Give it evidence without sabotaging the goal. Track the streak. Put a gold mark on a calendar. Tell yourself out loud, "I kept my word." Let completion have a visible ending. Satisfaction does not have to mean buying something or indulging after every task. It can be the quiet order of checking a box, the ritual of closing a notebook, the relief of an uncluttered desk, or the pride of sending proof to an accountability partner. These are signals that tell the nervous system the effort led somewhere. And if you find yourself avoiding the task, investigate without cruelty. Is the task too ambiguous, too long, too disconnected from any reward? Fix the design. A mechanic does not insult an engine for making noise. They locate the part that needs attention. Treat your habits with that same intelligent patience. You are learning a system, not standing trial for your humanity. Identity is not a slogan placed over an unchanged life. It is a conclusion drawn from evidence. If you repeatedly show up for a small task, your mind eventually has to update its story. You stop seeing yourself as someone who merely wants discipline. You see yourself as someone who practices it. This is especially important after setbacks. The old identity will try to use one mistake as proof. "See, you always quit." Reject that conclusion. A missed day is data, not destiny. Look at what made the miss likely, adjust the system, and cast the next vote. The return is often more meaningful than the streak because it proves that you are not dependent on perfection.
1 year from now, you will not remember every 2-minute session or every checked box, but you will live inside the character those moments created. You will have more trust in your own decisions. You will be less easily controlled by impulses. You will know that you can act while tired, uncertain, or unexcited. That is mental toughness in its most useful form. Not the absence of struggle, but the refusal to let struggle make your choices for you. There will be days when the plan breaks, a meeting runs late, you sleep poorly, a family problem takes your attention, or you simply wake up with no appetite for the person you are trying to become. Do not turn these days into proof that the system failed. Use them as a test of whether the system is humane enough to survive real life. On a bad day, use the reset sequence. First, remove the accusation. Do not say, "I ruined everything." Say, "Today became difficult." Second, identify the smallest action that keeps the identity alive. If you cannot train, walk outside for 2 minutes. If you cannot study, open the notes and underline 1 line. If you cannot write, name the document and save it. Third, prepare tomorrow before you sleep. Return the shoes to the door, clear the desk, place the cue where it will find you. This sequence matters because people rarely fail from one bad day. They fail from the meaning they attach to it. They allow a missed action to become permission for a week of surrender. The disciplined person is not the person who never falls out of rhythm. It is the person who notices quickly, refuses the spiral, and rebuilds the next cue. There is a quiet kind of courage in returning without drama. Nobody may applaud the night you put the book back on the desk. Nobody may know that you walked for 2 minutes instead of staying in bed, but you will know.
and every private return strengthens the part of you that believes your future deserves protection. So measure success differently. Do not ask only, "How much did I do?" Ask, "How quickly did I return?" A fast return protects momentum. It keeps disappointment from becoming identity. It keeps your standards alive when your energy is low. This is the rule that makes discipline sustainable. Make the good day productive, but make the bad day survivable. The goal is never to create a life where resistance disappears. Resistance is part of any meaningful pursuit. The goal is to create a response so practiced that resistance no longer gets the final word. Your cue appears, your smallest action begins, your proof is recorded. Then, one ordinary choice at a time, you become difficult to stop. Remember this: one deliberate action taken today is stronger than a flawless plan that never leaves your mind. Begin before your excuses organize themselves.